There is a cottage on the Balmoral estate, set back from the castle among silver, birch and heather, where the light falls differently in September. It is a small place, stone-walled and unassuming, the kind of dwelling one might pass without remark on a walk through the Highlands. And yet, according to reports emerging from within the royal household, this cottage now belongs to Lady Louise Alice Elizabeth Mary Mountbatten-Windsor, left to her by a grandmother who saw in her something the rest of the world had barely begun to notice. It is not merely a property bequest, it is a quiet declaration of trust, written into the private will of the longest reigning monarch in British history. In the stables nearby, the old carriages still waited that autumn, their leather worn smooth by hands that were no longer there. To understand the weight of this inheritance, one must first understand Balmoral itself. Unlike Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, which belong to the Crown estate and pass automatically with the throne, Balmoral is private property. It has been so since 1852, when Prince Albert purchased the estate for Queen Victoria for £32,000. The castle that stands today was completed 4 years later, built to Albert's own specifications in Scottish baronial style, surrounded by 50,000 acres of forest, moorland and river. Because Balmoral is privately owned, it can be bequeathed. It does not follow the Crown. It follows the wishes of whoever holds the deed. This distinction, arcane as it may sound, carries immense significance. It means that Balmoral is one of the only royal residences where a monarch may choose, freely and privately, who inherits what. It is not a matter of constitutional law. It is a matter of the heart. For Queen Elizabeth II, Balmoral was precisely that. She spent every summer there, walking the hills with her corgis, picnicking by the River Dee, retreating into the kind of domestic simplicity that the rest of her life could never permit. It was at Balmoral that she was happiest, and it was at Balmoral, on the 8th of September 2022, that she died.
Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. In a statement, the palace said the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon.
The estate passed to King Charles III, but the smaller properties scattered across its grounds, some 150 buildings in total, cottages and lodges and former servants' quarters, were subject to the late Queen's personal will. That will remains sealed, as is tradition for the sovereign. Its full contents may never be made public, yet details have surfaced carefully in the manner of all royal disclosures, through sources close to the family rather than through any official announcement. And it was one of those quiet disclosures, a provision tucked within the sealed pages of a private will, that would place this unassuming Highland cottage at the centre of a far larger story about legacy, favouritism, and the future shape of the monarchy itself. Lady Louise Windsor was born on the 8th of November 2003, premature and fragile, delivered by emergency caesarean section after a placental abruption that endangered both mother and child. Her father, Prince Edward, was not present, called away to Mauritius on official duty. Her mother, Sophie, then Countess of Wessex, was rushed by ambulance from the family home at Bagshot Park to Frimley Park Hospital in Surrey. It was a beginning marked not by ceremony, but by urgency, not by pageantry, but by quiet resilience. From the start, her parents chose a different path. They declined the title of princess for their daughter, opting instead for the courtesy style of Lady Louise Windsor, a deliberate step toward normality in a family defined by its distance from it. She attended local schools. She was not shielded by press secretaries or paraded at state events. When she turned 18, she was offered the right to claim her royal title. She declined, yet it was her bond with her grandparents that would come to define her place within the family. A royal insider once noted that Louise had become the late Queen's favourite grandchild, a closeness built not on obligation, but on genuine affection and shared temperament. At Balmoral, Louise did not merely visit. She belonged. She looked after her younger cousins, explored the estate with a freedom most royals never experience, and was granted access to Queen Victoria's private Highland sketches, a collection rarely shown even to senior members of the household. Her bond with Prince Philip ran even deeper. The Duke of Edinburgh, a man of discipline, practicality, and restless energy, found in Louise a kindred spirit. He coached her personally in the art of carriage driving, a sport he had championed for decades.
I was president of the International Equestrian Federation, a governing body.
They spent hours together at Windsor, navigating courses with fell ponies bred on the Balmoral estate itself. When Philip died in April of 2021, he left Louise his polished dark green four-wheeled carriage and his beloved ponies, Balmoral Nevis and Knotlaw Storm. It was not a grand inheritance by royal standards. It was something rarer. It was personal. Everything shifted in September of 2022. The Queen's death at Balmoral set in motion not only the machinery of state, but also the private reckoning of a family dividing its most intimate possessions. Charles inherited the estate. Birkhall, the King's cherished lodge on the grounds, remained his retreat. But the cottages, the quiet corners of the property where the late Queen had spent her happiest hours, were distributed according to her own wishes. Reports indicate that Louise was named as the inheritor of one such cottage, believed to be among the smaller, secluded residences on the estate. The specific property remains unconfirmed, though sources have pointed toward one of the guest houses the Queen herself favoured in her later years. The gesture has been interpreted by royal commentators not as a matter of real estate, but as a profound act of trust, a grandmother granting her granddaughter a permanent sanctuary within the family's most private retreat. The decision has not been without its murmurs. Some reports have framed the bequest as a pointed exclusion of Queen Camilla and her family. Others have noted that Louise was chosen over older, more senior grandchildren, including Prince William's children and the daughters of Prince Andrew. Yet those close to the family suggest the choice was neither political nor strategic. It was, they say, simply personal. The late Queen left the cottage to Louise because Louise had loved Balmoral the way she had loved it, not as a symbol of power, but as a home. At 22, Lady Louise continues to chart a course that defies easy categorization. She is reading English at the University of St. Andrews, the same institution where her cousin Prince William once studied, though she has navigated her time there without security details, without tabloid contracts, without the machinery of celebrity that has come to define so many of her generation. She has joined the Tayforth University Officers Training Corps, holding the rank of Officer Cadet in the Army Reserve, photographs surfacing of her in full camouflage, a helmet marked simply with her surname. If she were to pursue a military career, she would be the first female member of the royal family to serve since her grandmother joined the Women's Auxiliary Territorial Service in 1945. She competes in carriage driving at national championship level, guiding Philip's ponies through dressage and marathon courses with a steadiness that those who knew the Duke would recognize immediately. She has not sought the spotlight. The spotlight, it seems, has simply found her. What lies ahead for Lady Louise Mountbatten-Windsor remains, as with so much concerning this young woman, a matter of quiet speculation. Whether she will one day become a working royal, stepping into the ever-thinning ranks of public duty, or whether she will remain in the private sphere, building a life defined by her own choices rather than her bloodline, no one yet knows. Her parents, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, have taken on increasingly prominent roles within the institution. The path, should she wish to walk it, is there. But perhaps the cottage tells us more than any title could. In a monarchy that measures significance in palaces and proclamations, in crowns and carriages of state, the most telling bequest of the longest reigning queen was not a castle or a crown. It was a small stone house in the Highlands, left to a young woman who had never asked to be a princess and had quietly become something more. And in the stables at Balmoral, the carriages wait still. But the hands that hold the reins now are steady, young, and sure,